If you saw our last video about our garage workshop makeover, you know just how messy this place was when we started. It was the catch can of keepsakes from after we moved in, where it lived in piles that were out of sight and out of mind for a couple of years until we just started to dig into it recently. After a few weeks of work though, it felt like we made a huge improvement to the space, but there are still a few nagging items that we need to take care of. One thing that has led to my workspace being so cluttered is a lack of proper storage. With my current toolbox overflowing with tools and other items just sitting in corners and on shelves, I really needed more drawers for organization. Luckily, I've been sitting on some gift cards I've received from past holidays waiting for the perfect thing. This tool chest is much needed and will go a long way for making sure everything has its proper place in the small world of my workshop.
I'm not tall enough.
Are you okay? Although I'm always super excited by something so shiny and new, we'll set this aside for now. Organization isn't the main item on the docket at this point. Today we're addressing two things, comfort and aesthetics. It's getting to be very cold out, which means the workshop is doing the same. The garage doors are not insulated and they're super drafty, making temps drop in the winter. They're also extremely ugly. When it comes to making videos, and honestly just spending time in here, something easier on the eyes is going to make time spent in here just that much better. With building materials still on the expensive side, we're going to get resourceful and break out the Alaska mill. I've shied away from the mill for a while because it takes quite some time just to mill a single plank, which I know part of the problem is that my saw is on the small side at only 60 cc's.
So I've been kind of avoiding using that Alaska mill because it takes so long to rip a plank, and there's two reasons for that. I was cutting green wood, so the green wood's gonna cut slower, so I'm gonna go cut some dead wood, and then it might have been the chain. A regular chain is like 30 degrees when you file it, but actually at one of my enduro races I was talking to a racer who is also an arborist and said that it might be the angle at which the chain is ground. So researching, they said to maybe cut it at 10 degrees instead of 30. So I'm going through, recutting this chain, it's almost dead anyway, to see if it'll actually cut faster in the mill, because if that's the case, then we can start using it, and that would be a big help for me.
With the freshly cut and sharpened chain, I went out to give it a test to see if it made any difference, and within the first foot, I could tell it was a dramatic improvement. It felt like it was cutting twice as fast, and revealing the top of the first cut, I noticed how much smoother the surface came out to be. So with those positive results, it was time to put my head down and start ripping planks. Milling planks is only the first step though before we can use this lumber, since it obviously isn't dimensional yet. Remember my massive workbench Sarah gave me grief about?
You had to make the burliest man bench in all the land.
Yeah, I guess.
This seems excessive.
You're excessive.
This is excessive.
You're excessive.
This is so big.
Well, it's coming in handy for this part of the project. To make our hard-earned planks into actual boards, we need a straight edge to work from. Using an existing board as a guide and clamping everything to the bench, we can easily rip a clean edge with a circular saw. One of the big eyesores in the workshop is this transition from the concrete foundation to the ceiling. Last time I tried painting over everything to improve on the look, and while it helped a tad, it still is just butt ugly. My plan is to use some of our boards to cover this eyesore. To finish cutting the boards, we'll be using the best tool for the job, the table saw. After taking a couple of measurements for the molding that we need, setting the fence to the corresponding width, the job goes 10 times faster than anything that we've done so far. And just like that, we have all the boards that we need. Looking at where our molding is going, we kinda got lucky. Thankfully, there's a wood strip all along the ceiling, which simplifies the job. I can just use brad nails to put this stuff in place.
Oh, good.
And since it's rough cut, they completely disappear into the finish. For being such a simple part of this workspace build, the molding really does a lot to improve the look. No more nasty seams and exposed foam insulation, just natural, nice wood finish. Now it's time to tackle the biggest part of the build, which is the garage doors. Sometime in the near future, we'll be having these dated doors replaced with nice new insulated ones. So what I'll be doing here is somewhat of a temporary solution until that happens. The main goal is to insulate them and make the workshop side easy on the eyes. Normally, I prefer to use foam board to insulate these guys, but to cover everything here just isn't cost effective for something that will be getting replaced in a year. Not to mention, there's a bunch of extra stuff going on in the doors that I'd have to work around. So, we'll be using normal rolled fiberglass for this. Now, I know some of you are going to be screaming moisture barrier, yada yada, which normally I'd agree with, but in this case, I'm not too worried about it. And what are we doing for the easy on the eyes part? Well, we'll be using our milled 3/4 inch boards for a nice backdrop. This will make the door quite a bit heavier than I'd like, but again, this is a bit of a stopgap. Besides, it's gonna look pretty good.
The only bad thing about going full wood shop in here is how much of a mess it makes. I'm gonna clean up really quick before we move on to the next step. That way I'm not tracking sawdust everywhere.
The ceiling mounts are a little wobbly and can use some much needed attention. To make sure we'll be good to hold the extra weight of the door, I'm reinforcing the hanging mounts with 3.5 inch wood screws, since there's only nails holding these into the ceiling at the moment. Now that everything is tightened up and reinforced, we're about to get extra classy. I don't really want the fiberglass showing through these windows and the doors, and since it's cold out, paint doesn't want to stick to these windows very well. So we're going full backwoods and blacking these bad boys out with some electrical tape. I know, not ideal, but I'm more concerned with the look on the inside than the outside for the time being. With the prep work done, it's time to start the fun part. To make mounting our wood panels easier, I'm installing some scrap strips to the inside of the door body. That way I can cut the face boards to a length that won't interfere with the door hinges. Conveniently, the door hardware doubled as a method to keep these mounting strips in place. These strips also give me a better lip to tuck the insulation into. The insulation, though, was a bit difficult to get to stay in place. I installed the middle faceboards sooner than I thought, just to help keep things together. From here, things went pretty smooth until I got to the door handle. This is where I altered my plans a bit. After trying to think of a non-complicated solution that would maintain the use of the lever system and not look terrible, I decided to scrap it all. The outside handle is locked with no key, so I can't use it anyway, so we're just gonna block it all in. And I have a simple solution in mind for a handle. Of course, this means I could have probably gutted all these cables and rods and used foam board instead of fiberglass, but we're committed now. So after a couple days of clamping and cutting, routing and drilling, our door is almost done except for one thing. We need to make it able to lock again. My solution to make the latches functional is cheap and nothing elegant. Using a drill to twist up a bit of lashing wire, we're just going to install a pull cord. It's simple and effective, and from a distance, it's pretty hard to notice. And with that, our pretty door is done. I'll insulate the other side off camera to make this garage cold proof, but even with just the one door complete, I can already notice a big difference in temperature. Now, here's the main question though. Is this wood panel job a good solution to improving an old garage door? You know, probably not. It does what I wanted it to do and it does it well. It's warmer in the workshop and now I have a really nice backdrop to film against and to just look at. But honestly, I knew this door would be heavy as butts after doing this, but even I underestimated that. After tightening the garage door springs, it's still a bit cumbersome to move. I'm not worried about it crashing down or anything like that, but it's definitely a bit of a nuisance. So the other door will be done quick, dirty, and lightweight. It'll be nice to eventually get some new doors in here, but this is great for the time being. All I wanted to do was see if we can make this space look nicer by using natural supplies from my property, and I think we accomplished that. Every little bit in here improves this once dingy workspace. What's the next thing you think this workshop needs? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, if you'll excuse me, I'm finally gonna go play with that new toolbox I got and get this place picked up. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep that rubber side down.